The number one source of friction in your engine is not what you think. Piston rings rubbing against the cylinder walls generate more friction than any other part of the engine. More friction and temperature means more wear and less horsepower. Fortunately, the team at Total Seal knows how to reduce friction and wear through innovative piston ring design. If it takes a piston, Total Seal can build a better ring.
Redline Oil, formulated to win, proven by me.
Redline Oil, formulated to win.
Formulated to win.
Formulated to win, proven by me.
Formulated to win, proven by me.
Proven by me.
Proven by me.
Redline Oil, formulated to win, proven by me.
This is WFO Radio.
Hey everybody, WFO Radio is back, talking a little NHRA drag racing midweek. Hello and welcome to everybody watching around the world, whether you're on X, YouTube, Facebook, however, wherever you get the show, Apple Podcast, Spotify, SoundCloud. We appreciate you. Got a good one this week. I'm really excited. We were out there in Vegas a couple of weeks ago, and there was a hustle and a bustle, kind of news breaking, things happening. Next thing you know, called to the starting line to make a special interview and an announcement as Randy Couture, the 6-time UFC world champion, the only guy to do it in 2 different weight categories professionally, to win the title, is going NHRA drag racing. It was a shocker to a lot of people, but also a very positive story in a year where you've got Tony Stewart emerging and becoming a Top Fuel winner, in a year where Matty Gordon is announced to drive Top Fuel for Ron Capps. To have another positive story, someone from the outside of the drag racing world kind of coming into the sport for all of the right reasons, competition, the extreme nature. It's really exciting. So the plan is to have Randy on the show today and talk to him a little bit about his journey to this point and from this point forward, as they intend to debut the car, just kind of showcase the scheme and the livery in Chicago in a couple of weeks when we turn to the Gerber Collision and Glass Route 66 Nationals. And then at some point in the future, he's going to drive. I'm very excited about it. Randy Couture going to be joining us on the show. That is at least the plan. Also on the show, Matt Latino from Jesse Converters, the pro stock sensation, who's like, he's doing a good job to try to take the 00 nickname for himself as well. He's had some really good reaction times. He is very early, very young in his pro stock development, but has done very well so far. So very excited to speak with Matt Latino on the show. And because we have such an intense respect, adoration, desire to be competitive ourselves in the Lucas Oil series, we've got to highlight Donnie Durenberger. Donnie, who is a great guy, by the way. He's a great guy. I get a call from Jason Galvin early in the week. He's like, do you know that Donnie Durenberger doubled up on a motorcycle and in his super street car out at Worldwide Technology Raceway? And I was like, he goes, do you know that we don't know if that's ever been done before? I was like, I don't know if that's happened. Jason Galvin, he's like, you should get him on the show and we're going to do it. Because when, Galvin gives me a suggestion, when anybody gives me a suggestion, I take it under great consideration. So we have got ourselves a great show planned, but the guest of honor, the headliner, the feature is staged up in the ready room down there. I'm hoping we are ready to rock and roll. We're bringing him on, 6-time UFC champ and soon to be drag racer, Randy Couture. What's up, Randy? How are you?
Good. How are you doing?
I am excited about this interview, excited about what lies ahead for you. We did that interview on the starting line in Vegas. It came together so quickly. Of course, I thought of 1,000 additional questions the second it was over. But you tell me, how excited are you for this?
Oh, man, I'm very excited. Yeah, I've got a lot to learn. I know exactly where I'm at. I guess I have no bad habits. That's the good side of it. But I had a great time with Frank Holly's drag racing school 2 weeks ago. Very enlightening. The process is so interesting and so counterintuitive to everything you've learned about driving a car. I really hit it off with Frank. He's a cerebral guy working on the mental skills and all that goes on between our ears that gets in the way of us performing and doing what we need to do. And that was certainly in my wheelhouse as a lifelong wrestler and martial artist. So I had a great time. Had 4 good complete runs. Still got a lot of work to do to finish up my NHRA license and my Pro Mod license. I think we're headed down to Firebird at the end of the month. That's what we're working on right now, is those dates, to get in as many runs as I can get before I actually race. Obviously, I don't want to put anybody else in danger. I'm sure there's probably a lot of drivers that are like, hell with that. I'm not lining up next to that dude. He might end up in my lane. I totally understand that, and I realize where I'm at. But I'm very, very excited, and I'm embracing this opportunity. I couldn't be more thankful for SCAG and Randy stepping up and wanting to sponsor the team and me as a driver. So I'm happy to be involved. We may have created a new outlet for retired old fighters. I don't know. We'll see.
Well, exactly. So you've touched on so many things. I will openly admit I am not an expert on mixed martial arts or UFC, but I have, gone back and seen many of stories from your career. And there have been quite a few times where you've been a considerable underdog and stepped into the ring and you've delivered against all odds, or maybe what people have said you were going to be able to do. And to me, that comes back to what you just said, right? What's between your ears? Let's start at the beginning. I want to know about your career. Like you were going to the Olympics as a wrestler as a young man. You were an alternate, like 3 consecutive Olympics. That means you were paying the dues. Take me back to young Randy and your drive for competition, clearly.
Yeah, well, that started for me as a young man at 11 years old and walking out onto that wrestling mat for the very first time. My best friend's older brothers were wrestling on the junior high school team. Him and I went to watch them wrestle. There was a novice division. They threw us in the tournament because they thought it was funny. And I pinned a kid with a headlock and got my first bloody nose. And I was hooked. I rolled into junior high school the next year, and the coach remembered me. He was the PE teacher as well, Coach Casebear. We're still friends to this day. He's a great guy. And he really developed the passion for the sport in me. I found my friends. I found the place I seemed to flourish. I think I walked out on that mat to get attention of a deadbeat dad that was never really around, that I knew and heard my whole life what a tough guy he was and what a good wrestler he was. So somewhere in my young mind, I believed if I walked out on that mat, maybe he'd come around and he'd see me wrestle. That didn't work out, but I did find a place where I seemed to flourish. And that's where the mental skills started for me. Coach had these tag board signs up on the wall, takedowns, reversals, escapes. And I would memorize those. And every night when I would go to bed, I would go down those lists on those tag board signs. And eventually I knew them all. And I could see myself executing every one of those techniques in my mind. Now, I didn't know what I was doing, but I gravitated towards this visualization and using your brain to process things and find the physical things that happen when you put those pictures in your mind. And that's what a lot of people fail to recognize, is how much power is right up here between your ears.
That's incredible, because that's drag racing, right?
Yeah.
Like procedure is everything.
Yep. And now I'm trying to learn procedure that I've got to execute in a matter of less than seconds, honestly. That's counterintuitive to everything you've ever learned about driving a car. There's a lot of safety and a lot of other things involved as well. You don't want to forget to put your visor down, because if that car blows up, you may be missing a nose after that. I mean, there's a lot of things that go into this, and it's way more intense and thought-provoking than most people, certainly most of those fans that are sitting up in the stands watching those races, understand.
Certainly, you're also a United States Army veteran. Like, you've had a great career, right? Like movie star, The Expendables, UFC, like beating Tito Ortiz, all of these things. but the United States Army, like we really recognize the building blocks and the foundation that a military experience can give to someone. What did it give to you?
Well, I think, I thought wrestling was done for me. I had the aspirations young. I wanted to be an Olympic skier. I grew up in Seattle. Riding the school bus up to the ski slopes every weekend. I would ski 25 or 30 times a year. One of my best friends was an aspiring, ski racer, Don Totten, and I wanted to be that guy too. The Mayer brothers from up in Washington, Franz Klammer, Jean-Claude Keeley, those were the guys I watched on TV when I was a kid. And then that shifted after I walked out on that wrestling mat to being an Olympic wrestler. It was the one goal to this day, I haven't really accomplished. I was an alternate on 4 teams, but I never actually made the Olympic team. I made the world team, which is the same basic process in a non-Olympic year, but I didn't never make that Olympic team. But again, I think I learned a whole bunch about myself. Again, found those friends, that place where I seemed to flourish and fit. And I think in the Army, I developed that confidence that I could compete on that international stage. I was a 1-time state champ out of Washington in 1981. Yes, I'm dating myself.
That's okay.
I didn't get much love from any of the college coaches as far as scholarships or going to wrestling college or any of that. I ended up with a baby on the way, frankly. And so I had to support a family, and I wasn't going to be like my dad was. So I joined the Army, and that's what led me to the Army. I thought wrestling was done. And little did I know, first duty station was Central Europe and Western Germany. And 5 million soldiers at the peak of the Cold War stationed over there, and wrestling and boxing, certainly the combative sports, were huge morale sports for the service members over there. And I ended up back on a wrestling mat. I ended up making the all-Army wrestling team, ended up qualifying for the 1988 Olympic trials as a soldier, and was an alternate on that team the first time. And I think I developed the confidence that I could compete at that level. And then that got me recognition with all these college coaches in the 88 trials. Like, who the hell is that kid? Where did he come from? And now the phone started ringing. I had to make a decision. Was I going to stay in the Army and keep doing what I was doing? By that time in 88, I had 2 kids. My daughter was born in Germany when I was stationed over there. So big decision for me. Was I going to keep chasing that dream and supporting my family at the same time? Or was I going to get out, take a risk, take a college scholarship and go try and get a degree? And my coach, Coach Winter, Floyd, encouraged me. As selfish as he could have been to get me on the Army team. I'd won a few medals for him and all that. He encouraged me. He's like, man, you're crazy if you don't take that scholarship and go get your degree. So I was off to Oklahoma State in 1988, and I wrestled there for 4 years. And that, I think, elevated my game, not only to having the confidence that I could compete at that level, but I could win at that level.
Amazing. Well, that how one link gets you to the next, and to see how your career went. Our audience out there welcoming you. Of course, we're going live on YouTube and X, and Fast Eddie, who is a racer himself, a sportsman racer. The thing about drag racing is there are people at all different levels racing every weekend, having a great time. He says, welcome to NHRA drag racing. And it genuinely is like this, this extended family of people who have this speed addiction. I'm super excited. Everett, Washington, though, we've got a track up there, Pacific Raceways in the Great Northwest, and we know how big it is. Any experience with the track? Tell me about cars and car culture. Did you have any exposure?
Yeah, that was, again, one of the things I shared with my dad. Was he was that guy that tore his car down and did all that work on his car himself. He was a do-it-yourselfer that way. I inherited a 1970 and a half Ford Falcon as a junior in high school through a divorce. And that was my car. That's what I drove to school every day. Had to pay the insurance and the gas money for that at the grocery store, as a box boy. And I put big slick tires on it, and we welded together ladder bars and put exhaust on it, thrush mufflers and all that stuff on that little Ford Falcon. And that was my pride and joy. I sold that car in 1981 to try and go to Washington State and walk on the wrestling team there. That was obviously before the baby was on the way. And 2 weeks later, my buddy I sold it to crashed and wrecked that car. I was devastated. But I've always kind of been into cars and welding. That's what Ed was. He was a welder. He was a CB in the Navy. And so I gravitated towards those things that I thought were going to get his attention. And cars was certainly one of those.
Well, don't tell people in the drag racing community you know how to weld, because they'll put a welder in your hand. Don't tell them that.
It's been a long time.
All right. So let's move forward to what I am super interested in, is in that competitive drive. Clearly, you have this desire to compete, as drag racers all do. They want to get out there. They want to test themselves. But this time, it's going to be the melding of man and machine. which is different for you. Before, it's like relying upon yourself, your muscles, your brain, your tendons to react, the fibers in your muscles. Now you're activating a lever, you're doing a sequence, you're controlling a car, you're feeling the weight. How is that going to be different?
At the end of the day, it's still you and you and that guy on the other side of in the other lane, staging up to that and executing the launch of that vehicle in appropriate time, keeping it in line and getting it down that quarter mile as fast as you can get it and being successful. So in many, many ways, there's a lot of similarities to the individual combative sports. Obviously, we're fighting in a different way. In many ways, we're fighting ourselves. But so are we every time we walk out in the center of that wrestling mat or up in that cage. What's going on between your ears is way more important than anything physical that's happening. And so many people lose the second they start walking out that tunnel. And I think a lot of that same thing is true when you're staging that car and getting ready to launch.
Certainly. So you mentioned Frank Hawley's drag racing school. I saw a post that you guys made on your X handle from Frank Hawley's drag racing school. Looked like Vegas. Tell me a little bit about that experience. Frank is a special kind of person, period. A champ, one of our 50 greatest drivers, and he does a lot with the mental side. But what about the actual driving side, like the car, the feeling? Tell me about it.
Yeah, I mean, it was a challenge, honestly. First time ever in a car, and that I think is probably a 9 or 10 second car. The power is all there, all the procedure and everything that I needed to experience and I need to learn and continue to learn was wrapped up in getting in that car, learning how to put on all that equipment, the HOD, all that stuff, the trans brake, the line hold, keeping the car straight and finding the groove in the lane, doing a burnout, using that line hold, using your left foot for the brake and the right foot on that gas pedal, figuring out how that trans brake works and getting used to watching those lights and figuring out when to take your hand off that and not pull your foot off the pedal at the same time, which is a common mistake for a lot of folks and myself included. So coming up with tactics and ways to get through that procedure so that you're not only getting it down properly, but you're doing it as fast as you can do it.
That is exciting, Tiss. It's exciting. I don't want to say I was born into drag racing. I wasn't, but I was definitely born into fandom of drag racing, and I've driven some cars. And watching you go through this process I know it's going to be so exciting for a lot of people. Tell us a little bit about the team you've partnered with, and I know Randy Glady from SCAG is a big part of this. And I know we're going to unveil the look and the scheme of the car at the Gerber Collision and Glass Route 66 Nationals. Yep. At least that's the plan. But talk about how that came together and the team that is, giving you the seat.
Well, one of my best friends is Ben Carey, played in Savage Garden and Lifehouse. We've been friends for over 15 years now. He kept telling me, dude, you need to come to the drag races. This is so intense and so amazing. You're going to love it. So 10 years ago, he took me to my first race in Pomona. Got to meet Tony Schumacher and Ron Capps. They shared a pit at that time, the Army Dragster. Obviously, I gravitated toward that Army Dragster right away just because of the Army. And then Ron Capps is such an amazing, nice guy and such a great racer. They welcomed me with open arms. Got to sit in their cars, be there when they're changing the motors out between runs and just seeing the whole process. And it was mind-blowing. Got to stand at the starting line with Ron Capps at his first run that day. And it snaps your eyes wide open. 24,000 horsepower taken off on that starting line is just unbelievable. You feel it in your guts, in your organs. It's an amazingly intense thing. And it was a really cool place to watch that run. And then, after the run, he did great. And he's like, man, you should try the box. Go up and sit with my family. My wife and my mom are up there. It's a whole different perspective from up there. So that's what we did. We went up and sat in the box. His second, watched him tear the car down, put it all back together, drag it back to the starting line for that second run. He gets about 1 second into that run, and his car blows up. And I'm like, holy hell, I just met this guy, and I just watched him burn down the track. I had dinner with him that night. I mean, it literally blew my mind that he made ESPN that day from the fireball going down the track. And here I am having dinner with the guy that I just watched blow up. It was an amazing experience, and I've been a fan, an absolute fan ever since. Not only of racing, but of Ron and Tony, and still talk to those guys all the time. And they're certainly excited about this opportunity and want to help any way they can and give me any insight they can give me. And obviously both those guys are driving at a much higher level than I'm driving or hope to drive, at least in this first time stepping out there. But it was an incredible experience. Now, fast forward 10 years, Ben has gotten into, he's formed American Racing Series. He's doing the Nitro Series, Legends Nitro Series with NHRA. And they approached me about getting involved in a new circuit. And the guys from Street Outlaws were trying to form a new drag circuit, and they were looking for new, celebrity type drivers. And so they asked if I'd be interested in driving a car. And I'm like, well, hell, why not? That just sounds amazing. I'm a huge fan of the sport. I love cars. And so we were trying to put this deal together. That took me back to Pomona just a month and a half ago, again. But now I'm looking with different eyes. Now I have a whole different idea in mind, not just going to be a fan and watch the races. We paired up with Nathan from Dominate Racing out of Phoenix, and he's been in Pro Mod for a long time. He's a great crew chief. He's got a great car. This was the car that they were talking about having me drive in this new circuit. Now, the new circuit looked like it was heading towards a reality TV show, and I've done several of those, and I feel like I've done more of those than I probably need to at this stage of things. And I wasn't all that keen on being involved in a reality TV show, to be honest. But Nathan's taking me around to Pomona. We're meeting a bunch of teams that he used to work with or work for. One of those was this Blue Force team that is racing with Randy and SCAG. And while I'm in their pit area talking to a bunch of these team guys that Nathan knows, Randy comes in and he's hanging out there with all those guys that are racing for him. And I end up having an hour-long conversation with Randy and his values and who he is and what he stands for and what SCAG stands for and what he uses his marketing for and how he treats not only all the vendors that represent SCAG on a national level, but all of his drivers and the family that they seem to be. And it really touched me. It really moved me. He was an amazing guy. And the conversation went from, I'm not really interested to, well, what's your budget? And that's it. And it kind of took off from there. And then obviously coming here to Vegas, which is where I live, I got to hook up and watch Randy and see, again, meet a bunch of his vendors, sit right there at the start line with a bunch of the folks that he's working with. Again, went back to a bunch of those same crews that are racing for SCAG, and the conversation got very serious. And he was genuinely interested in helping and sponsoring me and Nathan to get into Pro Mod. It's one of the divisions he's not in. He's got 5 cars. I'll be his 6th car in the racing circuits at the different levels and the various classes. And we're having a legitimate conversation, and we end up having a handshake deal. He's like, yeah, let's do this. And I'm all in. I'm excited about the opportunity. He's excited about the opportunity. We're going to put the new Jackal and Tree Frog on the car, and let's get into Pro Mod. So we're off and running. I'm trying to learn as much as I can learn, get my feet under me, my butt under me, if you will. I think you drive these cars with your butt, not your feet. But yeah. It's been very, very interesting, very enlightening, very challenging. And those are all things I love. And he has been amazingly supportive. Nathan's very, very excited and I think rejuvenated. And we're getting into racing. We're going to do this.
I love it. I love it. It's very exciting. It's so exciting for me and our NHRA fandom out there. They're welcoming you. Welcome to our world. You're getting all kinds of commentary in the chat section on WFO Radio. Gabe wants you to come to the zoo in Brainerd. I don't know if you should do that, but the Brainerd Zoo is pretty wild. But all right, let me ask a racer question though. Pro Modified is a very high level category. We're talking 4,000 horsepower suspended cars. It's the deep end of the swimming pool. And there are so many other classes. Like I last year got to go 186 miles per hour in a super comp dragster. It really got my attention and I loved it. And maybe now I'm ready to go a little faster. when I hear pro mod, it gets me thinking about tire shake and all of these different elements out there. So like address that a little bit. Part of fighting is like maybe knowing what your limitations could be. I'm sure you know those. So how are you addressing that?
Well, Frank Holly was a great start to this process for me, and learning not only the psychological pieces of this puzzle, which was right in my wheelhouse, but all the physical processes, the safety processes, and everything else, and developing that sensitivity, because that's exactly what it is. It's the same kind of sensitivity I had to develop in wrestling. There's a mat sense involved in wrestling and knowing where you're at on that mat at all times. And there's a very, very similar process involved in fighting and stepping up in that cage, which I jumped right in. UFC 13 was my very first fight ever. So I'm no stranger to jumping in the deep end, as you put it. And I'm a diligent human. I recognize exactly what I don't know and where I have to go and what I have to learn to be safe, not just for me, but with that other guy lining up with me and everybody else involved. So yeah, I have a ton to learn. There's no doubt about that. And I know that may be concerning. I'm sure my mom is concerned. She wants to go to that first race. I'm planning on doing that very first race in Virginia. And my mom wants to come. And that's probably out of concern for me. She's giving me that cross-eyed look before. You're going to do what? When I called and told her I was going to get into the UFC for the first time.
Yeah, my mom too.
So I know exactly where I'm at. I have no illusions at this point. I'm planning with the crazy schedule I have already. I'm planning to get 5 races in this year. But the biggest part for me, and Frank started this with me, is just learning, practicing the procedure, getting it down so that I feel very, very comfortable, develop that sensitivity. So, I started with Frank. I've got to finish my license. I've got to get my pro mod license. I have to get a bunch of seat time. And that's what's on the docket right now. Between now and June is keeping my ass in that car and getting as many runs as I can get, learning and developing the sensitivity to stage, to launch, all of it. I've got the ball rolling, but that's all I've got right now is the ball rolling. So I'm a very realistic approach to where I'm headed and what I need to learn and what I need to get under my belt.
Have you received, and I know there's a lot of people in our sport that want to see you succeed, right? So maybe you're getting too much advice. I don't know. Has any advice that you have been given from any of our drivers? I know you've got relationships out there, been standout advice to you?
Mostly it's been Nathan. Obviously, he's been my boots on the ground and in the shop, fitting me to the car, making sure that everything's where it needs to be for me and feels comfortable. I've still yet to drive that Pro Mod car. I've driven Frank's car a bunch through the 2 days of the school. Frank is all about getting on board and trying to do whatever he can do to help me and to make sure, I think, obviously for safety reasons as well. But I think, him and I really hit it off because of our approach to our sports. And so he wants to be involved in this process for me as well. And he's been amazing. He and I really, really connected. And that's been fantastic. And I think everybody else has just been supportive. I think Ron is supportive. Tony is like, wow, all right, this is awesome. They're excited, but I haven't had to go to them and say, hey man, tell me how you do this or do that. And I don't know that any of that really is going to transfer to the pro mod circuit and to that level of racing, but you're absolutely correct. I'm jumping in at a very high level.
Very high level. Who am I to offer any advice? But I heard someone say something once that really made a lot of sense to me, and I will just put it out there. The throttle works both ways, right? Like it works both ways. Like if anything is not to your liking, you control whether or not the throttle closes. And there's never shame in that. It's just like, didn't really feel that before. I don't know if that's
absolutely something Frank talked about in class and on the track. If you're getting squirrely and headed towards those cones in the center of that track, why are you not taking your foot off the gas? Thinking you're going to correct that car is probably going to be your downfall. You need to let up and ditch the run and know when to pull the plug. And that's absolutely good advice.
Great. Yeah. That's what I can offer. All right. So Gerber Collision and Glass, Route 66 Nationals, Route 66 Raceway. Fans are going to get to see the car for the first time. I'm assuming you're going to be there. What can we expect to see?
Yeah, we're going to unveil the car and make the big public announcement with SCAG. The car is ready now and put together. Obviously, I'm looking at scheduling some time in Arizona at the tracks there to get some seat time and get as many runs as I can get before we even show up in Chicago, in Illinois. And I'm not racing that day. That's just a public statement that we're getting into this, but we're all excited. I think Randy and SCAG, everybody's excited to get this ball rolling and get this process started.
You've got actor friends, you've got mixed martial art friends. Give me a rundown of the responses that you're getting from your friends about your endeavor to do this.
I think they're all scratching their head like, is he out of his damn mind? Yeah, I think everybody's excited to see where it goes. I think obviously fighting was not something I ever saw myself doing, and acting certainly wasn't in my wheelhouse either. And those things turned out pretty well. Does lightning strike in the same place 3 times? I guess we're about to find out.
As long as you are having a great time and challenging yourself, it's going to be a great challenge. I'm sure everyone has told you that. I know you know that. It's not easy. Fans think the cars are just going straight. How hard could it be, right? They drive from one light to the next.
Yeah.
It's easy to misidentify all the stuff, and you're already on the journey. Randy, thank you so much for joining us on WFO Radio. My shtick is that people win their way on the show, right? Like you win your way on. We introduce new athletes, of course, but I hope someday we get to have that experience because I can see the passion. I love this sport so much. What you did for mixed martial arts once upon a time, I really hope we can replicate for our sport of drag racing, as in bring a wider audience to something that we love.
That is something that a lot of folks have expressed, and they can't figure out why this sport hasn't become more entrenched. It's so grounded in Americana. That's what I see. That's what I love about it. All the culture after World War II in motorcycles and in cars, and I'm in both of those worlds. Seems like a natural fit for all the fans and all the folks out there. So I'm excited about that. That's a whole nother layer of the onion that's been exposed to me. And I appreciate you having me on and giving me a chance to show what I'm passionate about.
Well, I'm excited as well. Got to know you very, very much better, certainly here. But let's do it again as you're a little further along in the curve. That will be exciting, and I think good for everybody to see.
Thanks. I appreciate you.
Thank you, Randy. Appreciate you. We'll see you in Chicago. Randy Couture with us here on WFO Radio. How about that? He's going pro mod racing with SCAG, Randy Glady, who just a tremendous investment in the sport of drag racing with Daniel Wilkerson and Justin Ashley, and now a pro mod car out there. Just very exciting about what is happening. But to me, the thing that is most important is that Randy, UFC Randy, we got all these Randys. UFC Randy understands that he's got a plan to go into the deep end of the pool, and he needs practice laps. And that made me feel obviously great. And I'm excited that we'll be covering it at the Route 66 NHRA Nationals. We got more to go, though. We got Donnie Durenberger going to be on the show, and I see Matt Latino is already down there. I wonder what Matt thinks about all of this. We're gonna talk to him about it, and we're going to do it after this.
For more than a decade, FTI has strived to become the leader in the aftermarket performance transmission and converter industry. We've joined forces with McLeod Driveline Components under the leadership of Top Fuel Funny Car pilot Paul Lee, and now have a larger distribution network, more resources, and more power. Come see us in the pits and ask how you can join the FTI family. It's not cheating, it is the competitive edge.
Looking to replace your OEM diesel particulate filter or diesel oxidation catalyst? Look no further than DPF XFit, a complete line of aftermarket diesel particulate filters and diesel oxidation catalysts designed as an exact fit OEM replacement with all makes coverage for light, medium, and heavy-duty trucks. With thousands of units in stock, we ship the same or next day, and be sure to check out our comprehensive reverse OEM lookup tool. Always new, never remanufactured. For more information, be sure to visit dpfxfit.com. That's dpfxfit.com.
Joining us now, he is the pro stock sensation. He's a couple of races in, and he's crushing it on the starting line, Mr. Matt Latino. What's up, Matt? Welcome back to WFO. How are you?
I am good, Mr. Costello. How are you?
I'm good. So I see Donnie Durenberger is down there in the red room, by the way. What's up, Donnie? So it occurs to me that you just watched a lot of Randy's interview here on WFO Radio.
That's
it's so alien. You're the guy who just kind of went through a similar experience. Maybe you had a little more understanding of this sport, but as far as driving a pro stock car, you didn't.
Yeah, absolutely. I'm first and foremost, I'm very excited for Randy. It was great seeing him speak about his history and leading up to his entry into drag racing. I think it's a super cool testament where you can take someone who hasn't really been in the sport before, show them around, introduce them to some people in the sport, and they can instantly be hooked. That's this kind of sport. That's drag racing. It's just, you got to see it to believe it. And then once you see it, you just want to get right involved. But in terms of jumping in and driving, I think Randy's going to do great. And the reason I say that is he is disciplined. He's focused. He's a fighter, he's very well trained. He's an athlete. And, he made a point, a lot of people say drag racing is just about jumping in a car and going straight. That's not necessarily the case. There's so many other things that you need to keep in mind. You have to have a clear head. You have to be focused, disciplined, know when to stop, know when to get out of it, know when to leave the line, when to catch your gear changes. I mean, there's a lot going on in those cars, and I'm very excited for Randy. I've been a fan of him before drag racing, and I'm very excited to follow his career in pro mod.
It could end up working out very well for the sport of drag racing, and very excited. But you 00 lights out there on the track. Your pro stock career is going pretty well. You've got new sponsors coming on, but that's not why you're here. That's not why you're here, guys. Part of being a sponsor on WFO Radio is we get to learn a little bit about what the company is and what they do. And so today, maybe one of the most initially miscommunicated sponsorships in drag racing, Jesse Converters. And now hopefully we're doing a great job with Jesse and the pro stock bonus and $2,000 for being low in pro stock. Of course, your dad, you guys, but it's Catalytic Converters. So tell us a little bit about the family business, Jesse Global Emissions Systems Incorporated. And I can tell you that most of us who are of a certain age think of the catalytic converter as something that was stuck on there and it's reducing our power. And we should hate this thing. That's not necessarily the case. And you've made that case to me. I want to talk to the audience a little bit about it. So guys, let's open the mind. Matt.
Okay. Well, I'm glad you brought that up because that is obviously the first thing everyone thinks in the racing community. A lot of people don't realize our business was actually founded because of high performance race cars. You look at a catalytic converter manufacturer and you think, here's a tree hugging environmentalist. Well, as much as I do, care about the environment and I do want to breathe clean air and I don't want to have a dirty polluting car, that's not the number one reason why this company was founded. I mean, my father started the company Global Emissions well over 20 years ago. He was one of Canada's most reputable builders of street legal race cars. So we would build you a car that you could drive it on the street, drive it to the racetrack, whether it be a circuit track, local moss or whatever, or drag cars. We had Ontario's fastest street legal drag car at the time. And then environmental control, pollution regulation, which we had a program in Ontario called Drive Clean, which is kind of like the EPA of Ontario, Canada. And they got real strict and started cracking down. Now, all of these street legal race cars that we were building, the OEM catalytic converters would not hold up to the amount of power that we were turning these things up to. So we'd have to take the cats out. They'd either, and that was never a problem until regulations started to get pretty strict. And then there was all these crackdowns, and MTO, which is, same thing as EPA, basically, were pulling people over, giving them tickets, pulling their plates off their car, saying, you've got a deleted car, you've taken your cat out, it's not street legal. And then we've got a bunch of angry customers now who've got a guaranteed street legal race car that's no longer street legal. And then our business is at risk because we can't do what we've been doing. My father, with a very, very knowledgeable background on tuning and emission control and understanding of catalytic converters, developed a high performance metal core catalytic converter. Your OEM catalytic converter is ceramic, which is not as tolerant to heat as stainless steel. And the way they're constructed, they're only built to withstand the amount of power that the car was built to have. So as soon as you start modifying and tuning your car, that OEM cat, yes, it does become restrictive. That does not mean, though, that every catalytic converter on the market is restrictive. We have our G Sport lineup by Jesse, all high performance rated. There it is. All high performance catalytic converters. We've got cats that'll handle 1,200 horsepower per bank. We've got 2,000 horsepower street cars out on the road right now, running our catalytic converters, keeping the check with O2 sensors turned on, and no check engine light for inefficiency, passing emissions testing, street legal for use, and withstanding that kind of power. That's our business. That's what we do. High performance. Our main motto is called performance without compromise, because we will guarantee you will not lose power. You'll pass an emission test. You'll have all the benefits of a catted car, except the power loss. You have no power loss at all. That's our thing. That's our product. We have dyno results to prove it. It's just a matter of selecting the right size. And I know you're going to bring this up, Joe. I know you're going to want to talk about the Pro Stock engine.
Well, absolutely. I want to talk about the Pro Stock. I do the Hidden Horsepower podcast for Total Seal, and that has been a topic that has been bantered about for a couple of weeks. But I want to pause just because there's this feeling that I have that, racers hate the idea of clean air, it can't possibly be that, right? No, man, racers go to the beach too. They walk in the wilderness, right. They go hunting. They don't want smog and anything. But if anytime that these two universes float near each other, they think about overreach and what you just described, police pulling people over and issuing tickets and how terrible it is. And so it's kind of like we're leaning into that, that might happen, and it might not happen here in the United States of America. But in the end, though, a combustion engine does put out some unfortunate exhaust.
It does. It absolutely does. And, whether you agree or disagree with keeping your car's tailpipe clean emissions, you may live in a state where you have no choice. You may live in a district where you have to pass an emission test to keep license plates on your car. And if you have a performance vehicle, you may have no other option. We have that solution. Anyone who's used our product swears by. I had a call yesterday with a guy with a 1969 Camaro and a 1970 Dart. Both have been converted to modern fuel injection. The guy's also got a BMW M3. His M3 has an active auto work downpipe on it, which features our catalytic converter. He loved it so much. He was so happy with the results on his M3. He's putting our cats on his Camaro and his Dart. Doesn't need to. They're pre-emissions vehicles. He does not have to pass an emissions test. But he's so happy with the results. He had no power loss. He had no smell, no odor. And he goes, I drive this car all the time with my windows down. My wife doesn't want to get in the car. My kids don't want to get in the car because their clothes smell like exhaust fumes for the next couple days. So we put our cats on the car, no drawback whatsoever, only benefits, less tailpipe emissions, no smell that's coming out of that thing, and it's great. It's an awesome product.
That's it. It's a target audience, right? It's the person who loves cars, loves car culture, loves power, all that, but also secondarily is thinking about those things. Not everybody is, and I'm certainly not forcing anybody to do anything, but if that is your thought, there's something that exists. So tell us about the Pro Stock engine, because Pro Stock guys, they don't want to do anything that reduces any power. That's what I know about Pro Stock.
Sure. So when we put catalytic converters on one of our Pro Stock engines at KB Titan, and we ran it on the dyno. We did this for a couple of reasons. A lot of people, when they saw that video, they said, "Oh no, they're coming after our race cars. They're going to force us to put cats on our cars." That's not it. We're combating an argument that a lot of people bring up. A lot of people say, "I don't want to run cats because they're restrictive, and I don't care what anyone says. Aftermarket, you put anything in that tailpipe, it's going to be restrictive." We say, okay. Most of the people that have these arguments are street car vehicles that are making 500 to 700 horsepower, let's say. I already know that they don't reduce horsepower as long as you're selecting the correct size for your vehicle. We said, let's just prove it. Let's take an extreme case. Let's take an NHRA Pro Stock engine that makes in the ballpark of 1,500 horsepower, and let's put a set of cats on this thing and see if there's any power loss. And if there's no power loss, we got to put that out there so people can stop using this argument that I won't put a cat on my car because it's going to lose power. So that's what we did. We put it on. We had Greg Anderson running the dyno. There was we got a small group around when we were running the dyno because there was a lot of people at the shop that were like, "Oh, I got to see this. This is going to be a total fail. Who do these guys think they are?" So because a lot of them weren't really believers either. And then they ran the dyno, and Greg, after he's looking at the computer, he's sitting there kind of silently. And I go, "Well, Greg, what do you see?" He goes, "Matt, no power loss." I said, "What about torque?" He goes, "No, it's like they weren't even there." Amazing. He was pretty blown away by it. We proved that there was no power loss running on our Pro Stock engines. And, this was kind of a twofold type reason we did this. One, it was to prove that, we can handle high power without these things disintegrating, falling apart, or losing power. And number two, if any sort of regulation were to ever come into drag racing, we're not pushing it. We don't want it to happen. If that were to happen, we have a product that works. We have a product that could satisfy EPA, and we've proved that it will not affect the performance of your vehicle.
I love that. And I think it's well positioned, right? Well positioned. Nobody's trying to force anything on anyone, and the acknowledgement that the existence of people who do think it should be a thing is just being prepared. Then that's the G Sport line, but you also have the DPF X-Fit.
Yep.
That's more of an over-the-road thing, right? Like particulate filters for trucks. Tell us a little bit about that. We got a lot of truckers in our audience as well.
DPF X-Fit is one of the divisions of Jesse. Jesse is Global Emission Systems, Inc. We have 3 divisions. One is G Sport, which we've just been talking about. 2 is DPF X-Fit. That's a direct lineup. That's a lineup of direct replacements for Class 8 trucks. Basically all the transportation trucks that you see on the road today, we have a direct bolt-in replacement DPF. It's a fraction of the cost of the OEM. It's the number one choice for fleets and replacement DPFs out there. So you can get them pretty much anywhere. Like I said, direct bolt-on, no modifications needed, and we have a huge availability for those as well.
Very exciting. If people want to find out more information, catalytic converters, first of all, the thievery that has started to happen over the years, right? Like more than ever before, people are having to replace them just because they come out one morning and their car is loud. And what the heck happened, which is a travesty, but you might need to replace one.
That's right. And these things are loaded with precious metal, which is why they are costly. It's the precious metal like platinum, palladium, and rhodium that reacts with exhaust gas to complete that reduction or that chemical reaction. But they also plug up, like DPF filters, no matter what, they do plug up. They have a service interval where you have to clean them or replace them. So with the Class 8 trucks, you likely, if you have a trucking fleet, you likely have a pretty large DPF or DOC expense. And we can help you save money on that expense. We come in significantly more affordable than the OEMs, OEM durability and quality, and like I said, fraction of the price. So you'd be silly to not deal with us.
So there's a lot of people out there with fleets in our audience. I know them. They reach out to me. Why don't you give some contact information if they just want to kick some tire and find out more?
Yeah, just dpfxfit.com. You can go on dpfxfit.com. Everything you're going to need is right there. You can send a contact email through there or phone the line, and all your questions will be answered. We also do, now I mentioned there was 3 divisions of Jesse. We talked G Sport, talked a little bit about XFit, and there's also custom fab / power generation. So we can come up with an emission solution for any any fuel, any combustion engine. So I'll give you another example. We had actually go-kart tracks. There are a ton of indoor go-kart tracks that use our catalytic converters to save them a fortune on heating and air. They have ventilation systems that have to ventilate out all the smog, which also suck out all the air conditioning in the summer and all the heat in the winter. Our cats, these air filtration systems only come on a fraction of the time. We're in power generation, stationary generators, gas generators, diesel generators, natural gas. If we are in any sort of combustion engine, we can develop product for it, and we likely have a product for it.
That is exciting. I had no idea about that as well. And when I just think about the market for that, a generator that will have exhaust that you need to clean that exhaust because it's in a public space, say, wow, that opens it up to a lot of possibilities. Matt, this has been illuminating and educational for me. I am excited about Jesse. I appreciate you guys educating us on what it's all about. Let's bring it back to Pro Stock as well, though. Okay, you guys got some weeks off. No Gerber. Yes.
So we have some weeks off. We do. Myself, I'm also taking a little bit of extra time off. So we do have a few weeks off until Epping, and then it's right into Bristol. I will not be attending Epping or Bristol. I have a baby boy that's coming in a few weeks. So I'm going to be a good dad and be at home for a little bit. My next race will be Norwalk, Ohio, as much as I would love to continue going and running more races, but I'll be running in Norwalk. So I've got like 7 or 8 weeks. I've got 7 weeks off basically.
Wow. But it's going to be good. It's going to be like development. You'll bring the desire back, and you'll think about all the little, I'm sure it wasn't perfect, right? There were some things that you wanted to do even better, and so you'll work on them.
Well, for me, I'm really excited about the time off, because I said right at the start, when I got my Pro Stock license, I said, if I can get funding to do, like sponsor funding to do even a single race, I'll be happy. My goal is to try to get 5 races under my belt, and that's what I'd like to have for the year. I think I'll be happy with that, just to get some experience. I've already done 4 races, and the season's just started, and I've got another 9 more on my schedule. So this is kind of the perfect break where I've gone out, I've proven myself as a new driver, and now I can take this time to really go on the hunt, to dial in all my final sponsors, to be set up for the remainder of the year. Driver suit, merchandise, hero cards, vehicle wrap. I want to come out really, really strong for Norwalk and be set up as if, I was a full-time driver.
That is exciting. And you'll be a new dad at that point. Now, is this your first child, or?
I have a 4-year-old. Okay. I have a 4-year-old daughter who is most definitely going to be a little race car driver. She is a speed demon.
I wonder why. Grandpa and you, of course. And hey, if nothing else, you beat your dad in your first ever race. You'll have that.
You're never going to stop talking about that, are you?
Sorry, Eric. It's just too cool, right? I'm sure he thinks it's cool.
Well, he outqualified me in Charlotte, and he made it past first round. So I think he got the advance on me, and he's ahead of me in points. So it's all right.
Look at you guys, like supporting each other. That's good. Right. Matt, thank you very much for joining us on WFO Radio. We're going to miss you out there, but we'll see you back in Norwalk. Thanks for joining the show and all your support. It's been fun watching you go through the process.
Thanks for having me, Joe.
Appreciate it. Matt Latino with us here on WFO Radio from Jesse Converters. Go to the website, learn a little bit more about what they're doing, and no power loss. Very, very exciting. All right, here on WFO Radio, we are huge supporters of the Lucas Oil Series. And not only did Project Pontiac run in a couple of Lucas Oil Series races at the start of the season, last year I also ran Super Comp in Dallas. So we're always keeping our eye on certain happenings going on, and especially when a Jason Galvin reaches out and is like, something crazy happened. You gotta check it out. It was pretty cool. There was a double up. Let's bring him on the show, Mr. Donnie Durenberger, who was also the Division 5 High and Mighty Helping Hand Award winner last year at the banquet. Donnie, congratulations. Maybe the first ever 2-wheel, 4-wheel double. What do we know about this?
I think division-wise, yeah, I think it was the first time that's happened, yeah. Thanks for remembering that Joe Meyer award. That was a big deal.
It was a big deal. It was a big deal. Well, me being the awards host each year now for Division 5, I get to go out there to Kansas, spend a little time with the D5 guys, learn a little bit more. And, Randy Meyer is a great friend, so that's a huge award. But tell us about your race day, Donnie, because you run motorcycles and super street, 2 totally different disciplines, but you got it done in both.
Yeah, there's a lot of jumping back and forth. I got to put leathers on to run the bike and driving suit, obviously, for the car. And, I've told a few people the story already from the weekend. And, when you sign up for a national, you go to a national, you think, I'm going to try to win this. Hopefully I do. Someone's going to win it. But you don't really get yourself set up to try to win a double. And so, it kind of starts developing and you're like, is this really going to happen? And, then when it was 2 finals, we've all followed this enough to hear other people go through that. And, you win one, you lose both of them. I don't know. So that went through my head a little bit, but I would say that I don't lack confidence in going into these things. So I felt pretty good that, the car was running good and the bike could run dead on the dial. I think the other 2 runs previous to that. And, the car, we just got out, we're in Minnesota, so we didn't get to start racing yet. I stopped at Rock Falls Raceway on the way to the divisional, made a couple of runs, but really that was the first time out of the year. And the thing was just working great. So other than the rain and the wind, it was a great weekend and a great track to run at. Nick Duty did a great job of making the right calls, I think, with the wind and all. But the race just kind of started laying itself out like that, and it was.
So which final was first? Let's go right to the final round. And you mentioned I hadn't even thought.
Yeah, so I ran the bike first. I had just gotten by Jimmy Paulson in the semis, and he just won the ET finals in Vegas, so he's the world champ. And getting by him was a big confidence booster because there's nobody tougher than him. So going into the final there, the bike final was first. So I ran that, and Barry wanted to do the winner's circle pictures down at the finish line. So I run the bike, and he wants me to leave it down there. Well, so I parked it. It was going to rain, so I parked it under the tongue of the division trailer, and then waved down a golf cart going by and jumped on and had to get back because they're trying to do all the finals at the same time. So I got back and switched, and then you got to look at your computer and try to come up with a number that you think is going to win the race. So I was trying to get a good number that I was confident in and get in the car and not feel rushed or whatever. And I didn't end up feeling rushed. They didn't push me or anything. But bike was first, and then it was kind of pretty awesome to be able to drive the car up to the winner's circle, and the bike's already sitting there. And there's 99 really cool things about it, so I'm pretty happy.
Amazing. Zen Motorsports says, let's go, Donnie. They're loving you, and people are saying congratulations from Central Florida. It is really kind of a dream scenario, and I think it is amazing. But like the Go Lithium on board, obviously, AJ, he was racing also, correct?
They went to Brainerd, and they did a test day at Brainerd. Brainerd opened up last weekend, and AJ, the Go Lithium guy, he's been hanging around and helping and doing videos. And he's been kind of itching to try it. And so Chris Bishop brought his dragster up there, and AJ was able to run it and kind of get way more of an idea of what we're talking about when we talk about racing.
All right. So why do you do this, right? Super Street. That's the class that I aspire to run. I guess I do. I have run it now. I don't know when I'm going to get back out there. Why do you do this, Donnie? Like, you guys are stalwart supporters of the Lucas Oil Series. When we go to Brainerd, you guys will be there. The Bishop's crew will have a ton of cars. A couple of years ago, you won that deal. What drives you? Why is this your thing?
Probably, like everyone says, the people you're around. I mean, it's interesting to me that you're at a place where everybody is there trying to do the same thing, compete and win. So we're all that kind of personality where we all want to be the man, or the winner. And even though that happens and you're kind of at each other's throats, that, at the end of the night, people are shaking hands and having a drink together and, sharing food or something. And, it's a good community, and it's hardworking people. I like it that it's hardworking people that think a lot, people that are driven. It's just nice to be around people like that. So, when I started racing, it was a motorcycle thing. I did that for forever and ever and ever. Johnny Smith is used to race pro stock bike. Well, he lives across the street from me. And when he won the first ET finals that we had gone to, I just thought that was like the coolest thing ever. And I just wanted to be able to do that. And so kind of just wanting to be one of those guys that would win something. And I started going. And then Mike Voss owns this bike that I've been running. And back in those days, we were like, I had an El Camino, and I put my bike in the back of the El Camino and went to the track and drove to South Dakota everywhere just to race. And Voss had a motorhome and a trailer, and he, this was like 87 or something. And he's like, let's all go out to Denver. And so throw all the bikes in the trailer. Mike had a motorhome, and it was such a cool buddy, get to know people, go out of state and all that. It just set the hook. And I don't know, it just never, we all race out there. It just doesn't go away. You do it and you're stuck. You're doing it for the rest of your life.
You're stuck. Hey, drag racing, you'll be stuck.
Yeah. For the rest of your Craig Treble, I see him mention all the time online about putting the needle in your arm and not being able to get it back out. So it's a little bit more severe, but the same thing. But I got to say, I don't know how much time I get, but I'm driving Bishop's car, and I drove a car previous to this, and it was great. Everything worked out great. We did really good with that other car. It was Jordan Pratt owns that car now, and his Camaro. But after that ended, I was back to running the bike, and Bishop stopped by and said, "Hey, come run the Camaro." And I knew Chris a little bit, but he let me start running with those guys. And at the time, it was just a couple of us, Chris's stuff, and there was a little bit of success there, but that Gen 3 car was kind of tricky, but we just kept sticking with it. And it's evolved into running this Nova. And then Chris, got another car. And anyway, it grew and grew and grew. And, we're friends. I don't have any brothers. So as far as I'm concerned, a lot of these guys are like my brothers, and, advice from everybody and help from everybody. I don't know if Steve Stockton's watching or not. He'll probably watch later, but I tell him all the time how much he's helped me with my driving. And I don't think he really believes me. And I say that all the time too, but he's helped me so much. So it's been nice to get in a group of people helping each other out. We're all good at different things. And it's really helped what I've been doing to be able to be around these guys and get their support and advice and use their knowledge and all that. But Bishop's put me in the car, and then he's a great car owner, because basically he says, here's the car. You set it up the way you want it. You make the calls, you run what you want. And I get to do what I want with it. He never, the only questions he has is, what did you do and what were you thinking? But, I got the freedom to do what I want with it. It's a dream scenario. I'm super blessed.
That is awesome. Listen, this gentleman says, it's funny that you can tell someone what they drive by the way they look, whether it's a dragster or a bike racers are some of the coolest people in the pits. They definitely are. Appreciated two-wheel history, Speed World 1984. Good time, says Ralph. Definitely. And this person, Ralph says, historically important 025. I don't know what that, I don't get the reference, but maybe he'll put a little more meat on the bone. What I want you to do is talk about Super Street, advocate for that class, because there's no world championship. And a lot of people think, we don't need a world championship. And maybe they're right. Maybe I'm wrong, but I think it's the coolest of all the classes, the .90 stuff, because of the wide variety of automobile styles. And you don't have to like spend a lot of time lightening the cars with a 2,800 pound minimum weight. That's the
Right.
only reason my car fits in any NHRA category at 3,300 pounds is because Super Street is a thing. Talk a little bit about the class.
Yeah, I'm with you there. It's nice to see full-bodied cars. You know, I think there was a rule change a couple of years ago, and you can run a Roadster, but what is there, 2 or 3 of them only? Chad Fergans.
I'm against it,
or
by
what
the way.
doesn't
Just
quite
nobody
count.
asked me, but I'm against that. It's not in the spirit of the rules. Roadsters, super gas, see you later. Let's keep Super
Yeah.
Street for cars. Unless you want to install some headlights and turn signals, then maybe.
But except for Fergan, we got to keep Fergan's Corvette in there. But
That's a real car. That's Fergan's.
Yeah, real car.
That's a car. For Chad's car
Yeah.
is a car that's a convertible Roadster with a roll cage. That's
Right.
totally legal. I'm talking about, and as much as I respect the Don Davis cars, and I think they're some of the best cars in the pit areas, that's what I don't know that that's applicable for Super Street.
Yeah.
My car.
No, I'm with you there. I love Super Street. I think it's a great class. I want to keep running it till I can't run it anymore. The cars are real cars, and they look like real cars, and yeah, I don't know. I like leaving at the same time. Well, that's what the thing is too about like that double is that, one class is full tree, one class is pro tree. You got to dial in on the one, the other one's target practice. Like I said, switching the leathers to the driving suit. So there's a lot of switching going on that double, which, that's what I'm signing up for. I like that. But as far as Super Street, yeah, I kind of wish more people would drag their cars out and try it. Well, you were there at Brainerd when I kind of made the plea to the fans there that if you think this is cool at all, try to get your car into this because these heavy cars can do it. Christopher Taka showed up from Minnesota down in St. Louis, and he's got a regular heavy bracket racing car, and he did a couple of things, and I think he went 3 rounds. So, people can do it. They just gotta get out there. Super
Exactly.
Street's perfect for them.
Perfect.
Yeah.
Well, that's what Project Pontiac was all about. Taking an old bracket car and making it NHRA Lucas Oil Series ready and going out and competing. We got down to 6 cars in the first race, and that's the whole point. Because a lot of people have a car like that available that they just need to. Well, you just need this, and this, and you're doing it all of a sudden, and it's a lot of fun. Donnie,
Joe, I got to ask you, were you nervous when you're doing it?
of course. What are you talking about?
You
Every
were
time.
nervous. Okay.
Yes, absolutely nervous. I get nervous at
Okay.
everything. You feel it. You got to control it, of course. But, I got Randy Couture on the show, and I'm going to ask this guy about his drag racing career. And, yeah, I'm a little nervous, man. I'm like, I want to get it right. I want it to be good. I want people to watch. I want people to feel his energy and get to know the guy. And I got Donnie Durenberger. He's going to be on the show, Donnie. I get nervous.
I wasn't sure. You stand in front of all these people and talk. You saw me at the division banquet when you tried to strong arm me into speaking. I was pretty nervous at that.
Yeah,
you
that's
do
the
it
only
every
way
day.
to do it. The only way is to just do it.
Yeah.
Maybe there's a good chance it's going to be bad, but you get that out of the way and you keep going and you keep learning and you do better. And what do they say? You really only learn from your failures anyway. Like when you have
Right.
successes, what did you learn? You learn from the failures.
Yeah, that's a great point. I want to bring up quick before we're done.
Yes.
About being nervous and new and all that. So Bishop got a kid coming up to run the car next weekend up at Brainerd. He's joining the team. Have you seen any of the press stuff about it?
Not yet. Tell me.
Oh, you haven't.
I haven't. Maybe I did, and I let's just go with I haven't.
Yeah, Jordan. He's going to come up. He's flying up to Brainerd. He got a hold of Chris. He wanted to join a drag racing team. He wanted to learn, get mentored from some people. And
which Jordan?
Oh my gosh! See, don't do this to me. It starts with a D. I'm going to look it up quick. I'm sorry.
Yeah, look it up. Meanwhile, this guy says roadsters are a gimmick of the rule book that should have never been allowed. No, I don't know about that.
Roadsters.
Yeah, roadsters. Like he means the super gas roadsters that everybody has. I know folks that drive Super Street without any throttle stop. Just run 1090. Doesn't matter how you do it. Right. You could do that if you wanted. DaCosta.
Yeah.
There it is.
Sorry about that. Yeah. So he, he's a young kid. And he's a social media kid, and he's all into it. He's got an S10. There we go. And he's way into this stuff, and he wants to kind of be with some guys that have been doing this for a while. From what I understand, he was kind of mentored to, don't be afraid to ask questions. Don't be afraid to reach out. So he did reach out to Chris, And, luckily Chris has something available for him. So he's coming up to Minnesota, and Bishop's going to be guiding this kid. And so I'm going to go up. This should be fun to be a part of next weekend. And so the idea is that he's going to get his license and run super street I believe at the double divisional and the nationals, I think, if that works out. And then, we're going to try to integrate a new young person that's exciting and into social media and just hungry to do it all. So he'll be around the team. And then I think the next year it'll be, he'll be doing more of that. So
very exciting.
Yeah, it's you got to do that, right? I mean, there's too many of us older people doing it. We got to get younger people involved, and this is going to be a great way to get young people at the track. He already races, but we'll get him into.
I get your point. Listen, honestly, that's why my dad, may he rest in peace. He could have continued to drive, and I could have been the kid with the tire pressure gauge, and I wouldn't have known any better. And that would have been my life, and it would have been great. And I would have loved it regardless. And maybe he could have said, like, Joe, go get a job and save your money and buy a car. And maybe I would have done that. But instead we were a racing team, and he put me in the seat, and I learned to drive. And, here I am. I think that's a part of my story. And I do think that there is an obligation to shepherd along the next wave, the next generation, however old they may be. Some could be middle-aged, but if they got the time and the will and the desire to do it, you got to help. You can't let them, blow up their stuff and go out and become super frustrated because they have no idea what they're doing, so much so that they quit, because where's the fun in that?
Well, you know what? I think that's the difference between winners and champions. I think we all know a lot of winners. They win a lot. But I think champions give back to the sport that's given them so much. I mean, we have all gotten so much out of drag racing, and I think it's only right, really, to try to, keep this thing going and bring new people in. And so I've used that at a division banquet speech before, that I believe there's a difference between people that just win. They just want to know what the payout is. They just want to know what time the gates open. They might win, but I think people that are championship caliber people give back to what gave them so much. And I think Jordan coming in is a small part of that.
Very exciting. Donnie, congratulations on your double up win. ET Motorcycle, Super Street, Lucas Oil Series, Worldwide Technology Raceway, a tremendous news story. And I'm super excited to have you on WFO Radio, and really appreciate everybody.
This was as cool as winning, getting to be on here.
It's kind of part of it when you do something.
I saw my hero Gage Ferreira on here.
Gage has been on here many times, so many times. So many people there, his competitors are annoyed by it, I guarantee.
I love it.
Yeah. Well, speaking of which, we got to have Matt Smith on next week to get that rivalry re-inflamed as we get ready for Chicago. Donnie, appreciate you, bud. I'll see you soon down the road.
All right. Good talking to you, Joe.
There you go.
Thanks for the opportunity. I appreciate it.
Of course, 100%. Every time you double up in two different styles of racecraft, Donnie, we'll have you. How about that? We'll make that deal.
I'll try harder.
There you go.
Thanks.
Later, bud. Donnie Durenberger, D5 guy, Minnesota, does a lot of raps, does a lot of artwork. He's a multi-talented individual. But really, the thing that I've learned about Donnie over the years is that he is secretly working just under the surface to do positive things for the sport of drag racing. Make sure people get recognized, make sure that me as an announcer and other announcers know that something happened in the pits that was maybe over and above the call of duty for someone, like they helped someone or something. He goes out of his way to make sure all that stuff happens. And there are a lot of people in the pits that do try to do those kind of things. Donnie just happens to be an excellent racer as well, and he doubled up this weekend. All right, guys, get your comments in the comment section. Let's see what you have to say. And as we cue those up, like Derek says, Donnie would be a great attention in the pits. Yes, he would. Yes, he would. Speaking of which, there is a new attention in the pits up and available right now. And I would love for you guys to go see it because it's so cool. We caught up, like I was walking through the pit area in Pomona and I said, man, that had to be a pro stock car at some point in its life, like an early era 70s pro stock car, Ford Pinto. And sure enough, there's an amazing story associated. So go check out NHRA's feed and watch Attention in the Pits. And you can subscribe to that playlist, right? So if you want to make sure you see every Attention in the Pits, in addition to everything else. I don't want you to segregate your viewing to only Attention in the Pits, because there's a lot of great stuff going on there. You can subscribe to the playlist, Attention in the Pits, and it is great, good stuff. We're always looking for cool cars. Do want to tell you, obviously, the folks at Redline Oil on board with WFO Radio. Get yourself some water wetter, Redline Oil, synthetic motor oil. You see them on nearly every Top Fuel dragster. There's so many different reasons, but the high zinc rate, etc. Appreciate Redline being on board with WFO Radio. Also want to tell you about the folks at HusseyPerformance.net, 412-716-4872. They're not just copperhead gaskets anymore. The folks at HusseyPerformance.net. David Allen and his team, they're in Beaver Falls, Pennsylvania, up there in PA. And what I've been saying is they don't need to bring their manufacturing back to the United States of America, because it never left. They've always sourced and made their gaskets, whether it be oil pan gaskets, valve cover gaskets. We're talking top alcohol stuff here, guys. And they even have contingency programs in top alcohol dragster, top alcohol funny car, top sportsman, top dragster, even in the PDRA and top sportsman and top dragster. Reach out to them. Check out. They've got state-of-the-art gasket cutters. They bring unrivaled cuts. They are perfect. And they come quickly, too. So you reach out to David, tell him what you need, and it's going to be on its way very rapidly. That's HusseyPerformance.net. Of course, our great friends at Redline Synthetic Oil. Shout out to them. CWT Industries. I'm excited about our Redline oil. CWT Industries Balance Machines. That is Randy Neal's company. If you got a machine shop, you don't have a CWT balance machine, you are missing out. You learned a little bit about FTI converters early in the show. We learned a lot about the DPF XFit brand of Jesse converters. Every once in a while, look, here's the deal. This is a show, and we do have sponsors. There are a lot of people that will talk to you and do interviews without sponsors and sponsorship. But the way that we're able to do it is that we have hopefully worked very hard to build up credibility with our audience. And whenever we do present one of our sponsor interviews, which is part of what you get when you come on with WFO Radio, it's going to be educational, and you're going to learn something. And maybe you'll never buy a catalytic converter for your racing engine or your performance car. But now you know a little bit more than you did not that long ago. So when someone says something maybe that they don't know about it, you at least understand the facts of the situation. So I appreciate you all understanding the nature of our programming. We do have sponsors and sponsorships like Total Seal Piston Rings. We create this podcast for them called Hidden Horsepower. Hopefully you'll check it out. You know, we lost the old master, Ed Pink, last week. Phil Burgess has done a tremendous job with I won't call it a eulogy, but a tribute on NHRA.com. I recommend everybody goes and reads it. But we also spoke with Ed on the Hidden Horsepower podcast, and it is in the feed, and I pushed it out there the other day. Amazing. Just all the stuff that he was involved in over the years, not just drag racing, but moving into Porsches, moving into sports cars, doing engines for midget race cars. Just amazing to hear Ed Pink in his own voice. It is a shame that we lost him, but he lived a tremendous life. Iconic. I had a great conversation with Shirley Muldowney yesterday, and I said, Shirley, Ed Pink, and she said, what a gentleman. What a gentleman, always treated me fairly. She said, I couldn't afford to have him build me engines, but I bought some of his components, and we built our own engines, and she just had that he leased her shop space at some point. Amazing. If you want to hear Ed, you can go to the Total Seal Hidden Horsepower feed, which is also, some form of infomercial entertainment to tell you that Total Seal piston rings are very, very good. Certainly what we have in Project Pontiac. FTI Performance, of course. Bernie Speed Shop. This is Josh Hart's company, Bernie's, BURNYZZ.com. 100,000 square feet up there in Ocala, Florida. You really got to go by there or check out their social media because they do it all. Frame off restorations, engine build, paint work, everything. Plus they buy and sell classic muscle cars, which I actually think is best for our audience. In that if you have a muscle car that you're looking to sell, you could put it in the Auto Trader, man. I don't know. It's not going to probably go as well as Josh would move it. Because they're selling overseas. They've got a whole worldwide audience of people that are interested, and they facilitate all of those things. Bernie's Speed Shop. Give them a call. Tell them you heard about it on WFO Radio. Of course, Foggett. You got to have a can of Foggett at your race shop, in your race car trailer. Foggit, Foggit.com. It's available at Summit Racing Equipment. Frank Hawley's Drag Racing School, the Dragster Adventure. So Randy Couture is going to learn how to drive a drag racing car. Where does he go? He told us he goes to Frank Hawley. Now, maybe you're not going to drive a drag racing car, but you just want the experience, the feeling of what it's like to drive a car. They got a program for that called the Dragster Adventure. Go to frankhawley.com, ask Frank, talk to them, and get to spend the day with them. And you make multiple runs down the racetrack in a specially fitted dragster for people who show up with nothing but the clothes on their back. They do not have to bring a helmet and driving suit and driving gloves, and you don't even know what you need. They take you through the whole experience. It's really mostly for fun. Check it out, the Dragster Adventure. And then there's our great friend Marvin Rodak, rodakscoffeeandgrills.com, the hot sauces and the spice rubs. Talk to Marvin about the tariffs. Like, Marvin, what about the tariffs? And Marvin says that he has got this thing figured out. So if you're looking for a great place and a great way to get, he told me more than that. That's me simplifying what Marvin said. It was a good conversation. rodakscoffeeandgrills.com, 817-924-6821. I get creative license when I'm reading the sponsor reads, but Marvin's a great person. Fort Worth, Texas. Get yourself some coffee. You'll never look back. Do want to remind you guys, WFO gear, WFO swag. You get the Project Pontiac t-shirts. It's all available in our TeePublic store. Check it out. Also, you can watch WFO Radio on PowerTube TV. Hopefully, this has been enough time that you guys have got some cool comments in the comment section before we get out of there. Like C5 Pete says he loves Hidden Horsepower. Hidden Horsepower is a great show. A lot of celebrity engine builders telling their stories of stuff they blew up, but also a lot of tips, a lot of advice for the future. And this week we are scheduled, since we had an episode with Ed Pink, we wanted to do something that would be insightful. And so Keith Jones and I talked about it, and Ed Pink's general manager from his shop and shop days, the guy who really made it work and facilitated the actual work and working for Ed, is going to join us. And it's going to be very, hopefully it all works out, obviously. We'll hopefully get some really good insight into Ed Pink, the man. Kara says, great show, of course. Keith Kaufman says, great guests. Donnie was one of those real racers. Well, you got Randy Couture, celebrity actor, movie star, world champion, just getting involved in drag racing. You've got Matt Latino, young entrepreneur, business person, Canadian pro stock racer, has taken a few steps in his journey. And then you've got Donnie, grizzled veteran, lifer, drag racer at the sportsman level that you'll see him on social media. You see him in the final rounds, giving him a platform. That's really what the show is all about. That's what WFO, we tried to make it into. We don't always live up to that. But hopefully you'll click subscribe, you'll share the show, you log on each week, you see what we've got to offer. For instance, later on today, we have what I'm calling 341.59, the interview. Going to catch up with Brittany Force and talk to her about her historic moment, running over 340 miles per hour in her top fuel dragster out there in Charlotte. That will be available later this week, a special WFO Radio with Brittany. Drag racing history, guys. 340. It's over. Austin Prock, Bob Tasca, Brittany Force. The milestones have been broken until someone goes 345, which may happen at some point. Randy Johnson says, I already watched it. West Palm Beach updates. Bring Alan back. We talked about the Alan situation deeply on the Ignition podcast. And very interesting topic, certainly. West Palm Beach updates. I've got nothing. I was very involved early on in organizing the racers to try to stop turning it into a warehouse. Since then, I've kind of fallen out of knowing what's going on. I did hear that like maybe it was sold, but I don't know to whom. I really am not knowledgeable at this point. I'm in the dark. I would like to know. So if you know, you may reach out to me and we can know together. Monica, really enjoyed today's show. Thanks. That's great. Great news. And C5 Pete just has to mention, by the way, I'm in Spain, guys. I'm in Spain. I'm C5 Pete, and I'm in Spain. Thank you, C5P. Is that what he said? Watching from Spain today. Yeah. We're big in Spain, guys. We're big. WFO universe extends beyond borders, which is why we have the Australia report. We've got our friend UKev in the UK. We've got listeners really all over the globe to the WFO universe, a very intense drag racing oriented audience. But I do recommend the Ignition podcast. We get after it on that one about all topics, sports collision and just all topics. More of a conversation than anything else. Has the NHRA discontinued Top Fuel motorcycle class this year? No, they have not. Why would you think such a thing like discontinued? We're 5 races in, man. Wait till we get to Richmond. You can see the Spider-Man is what you want to see. As I understand it. The next race is the Gerber Collision and Glass Route 66 Nationals. We will be on next week prior to the event. If you're anywhere near the event, I recommend you go. There are some races that are practically permanent as anything might be. You think about the U.S. Nationals. I really feel like the Speedway Motorsports tracks are locked in. The Texas Motorplex locked in. Route 66 Raceway is the kind of race that we need to support it, to keep it going. So if you're in that area, if you love the facility, if you want to keep the intensity up, come see us at that one. It's a great event. So much fun. No Pro Stock, but Pro Stock Motorcycle will be there. Pro Stock missing Richmond and missing Chicago. Spider-Man is the correct answer. Of course, everybody wants to see a little Larry McBride. Maybe we'll get Larry back on the show. There's a good chance Larry's out there right now. Such a good person, generally speaking. All right, guys, that's going to do it. Hopefully you had a fun show. Randy Couture, what a great guy. The passion, the excitement, the journey he's going on. It's not easy. The cars are not just going in a straight line. Good to know that he is all over it. Thanks, guys. Appreciate you. WFO.